Good morning, everyone. Before we start the prelude, I just wanted to introduce our guest musician who's singing the prelude. So, Jonathan Douglas is a really, really talented baritone that goes to school at Roberts Wesleyan. And he's here as part of the Come Sunday program I've told you all a little bit about with Finger Lakes Opera, where they actually pay musicians to go out into the community and sing at churches at no cost to the church. And this was a great way for Jonathan to connect with Finger Lakes Opera, and we're really excited to have him in the community and to have him with us. So I hope you enjoy.
Make you brooches and toys for your delight, of bird song at morning and starshine at night. I will make a palace fit for you and me, of green days in forest and blue days at sea. Make my kitchen, and you shall keep your room, where white flows the river and bright blows the broom, and you shall wash your linen and keep your body white in rainfall and morning and dewfall at night. And this shall be for music when no one else is near, a fine song for singing, a rare song to hear, that only I remember, that only you had mine, of the broad road that stretches, and the roadside
Oh, am I on yet? All right. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this service at the First Universalist Church of Rochester. If you are here for the first time this morning, we especially welcome you and thank you for making it to our worshiping community. We invite you and everyone to stay after service for coffee hour in the Clara Barton Lounge or online in the same Zoom link. That'll be through those doors. There's also a visitor's form that you can fill out on the back of your order of service or by clicking the link in the chat. We invite you to do that so that we can stay up to date with you as to what's going on here at the church and so we can offer you a welcome beyond what we can this Sunday morning. Just a reminder, if you have a big joy or sorrow in your heart, we invite you to write it in the notebook here on the chancel or in the Zoom chat anytime before the chalice is lit. So now is a good time to do that. Some announcements. So coffee hour will still happen after service, but it will be after our budget meeting here in the sanctuary. So for members, stay here, quick Q&A over the budget, and then coffee hour. And we will also have the book club in the Chalice Room 23 after the budget meeting, after service. The June scripture study with Reverend Eileen begins tomorrow, so signups are required. See either of us or the website. Fellowship Club is this Tuesday, and we're doing the budget meeting today so that the annual congregation meeting next Sunday, June 7th, goes smoothly. One last little announcement. Earlier this month, our own Reverend Eileen received the Emerging Leader Award for 2026 from Colgate Rochester Crozier Divinity School. Yes. You can see the Outlook, which is out today, for more details, but we wanted to highlight this wonderful honor and what a joy it was for those attending the ceremony to experience. Congratulations to Reverend Eileen. I kind of surprised her with that. Thanks, congregation, for your help. Before we turn towards our neighbors, let's say hello to our online community by waving towards the Progress Pride flag in the back there, where the camera is. If you're online, pop a greeting into the chat. We're happy you're joining us here this morning. And if you're here in person at First Universalist, let's take a moment to greet our neighbors and offer a warm welcome.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Eileen, she, her. I want to invite you to stay standing if you already are, or to rise in body or in spirit to sing together our first hymn. It is number 1051 in the teal hymnal, or you can follow along on the screens up front.
This past Thursday morning, the Clara Barton Lounge and the hallway to the sanctuary were in a state of absolute chaos. Anyone that was here can attest to that. However, It was a beautiful chaos. Since we were hosting the free breakfast for unhoused people, we provided food, clothing, and connection to housing services to, well, I've heard different numbers, but let's say at least 60 people, which was a pretty good turnout. Thank you. Thank you. There are many stories, but I want to share one that I personally experienced outside as the event was almost over. My wife Wanda and I were standing on the Court Street side here, and it was close to 11:30 and was supposed to finish. And this young family came down the sidewalk, and we directed them to the door. And then we kept chatting, and my wife noticed they didn't stay in very long. So they're walking towards Clinton Street, and my wife caught up to them to find out if there was a problem. We had a couple of police here from Hot, and we thought, did that spook them? But that wasn't it. The woman said, "We're Muslim, we're not comfortable going in a church." So my wife said, "Would you like some food?" So she ran back in. I went back. I followed her in, and we filled 2 bags with food that was left over. She grabbed a couple of coloring books for the kids, went back out and brought them to the family, and they were so grateful. It was just a very touching moment. And then I made sure they knew about how to get in touch with, how to find out about other services. So that was just one. I know other people have stories, and there were also a lot of glitches, but that happens. Like there's an explanation why there's 4 gallons of OJ in the fridge. I'll tell you about that later. But there was so many. But anyway, the most important things went well, I thought. This story fits well with our current theme, which is solidarity and tending the flame. Everyone here has heard of civil rights icons like Martin Luther King Jr., Medgar Evers, and Malcolm X. But have you heard of David J. Dennis? Prior to reading the book, The Movement Made Us, I had never heard of him. The book is a collaboration between David Dennis Jr. and David Dennis Sr., and it describes the father's critical role in shaping the civil rights movement in the early 1960s. However, he was not in the limelight like King, Evers, and so on. The senior Dennis organized and took part in boycotts, protests, and freedom rides in an effort to eliminate segregation. Often, this meant putting his life on the line while being a target for the Ku Klux Klan and local police in rural Louisiana and Mississippi. Dennis compared this to a soldier in battle without an army behind him for support. When I first read that sentence, I was a little dubious because I thought, what's worse than being a soldier? It was worse because anytime he went out, his life was on the line, and it's kind of a miracle. He's actually, I think, still alive today. So after reading the book, I wholeheartedly agree that he was a hero, an unsung hero. Ultimately, his efforts contributed to significant progress for Black Americans with the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and the Fair Housing Act of 1968. Of course, most of you know these are now being, at risk and already being cut somewhat, but we don't want to take away from what he did. I know someone in Rochester who also has an impressive history of social activism, including participating in the 1963 March on Washington when Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech. attending Vietnam War protests, participating in Black Lives Matter protests, and more recently, advocating for the New York State Medical Aid and Dying Act. I also saw this person at the Rochester Rapid Response Network training recently. As some of you have already probably figured out, I'm talking about a member of our church, the Reverend Dick Gilbert in the second row down here. He was the pastor for the First Unitarian Church of Rochester for 32 years and has published several books. Reverend Gilbert has been tending the flame as a social activist for 60-plus years, but he has done so with humility and compassion. During this time, he's been an inspiration for thousands of people, and thus his impact will live on in future generations as they tend the flame of liberation. So in the spirit of David Dennis and Reverend Gilbert, come, let us worship together. As Sue Keefe comes forward to light our chalice at First Universalist, and you light a chalice in your own homes, please join me in our chalice lighting words spoken in unison. May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. Please rise in body or in spirit for our affirmation of faith. Love is the doctrine of this church. Truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. Dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and the meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all. I invite you now into the spiritual practice of generosity. The good work of this church is funded by the gifts you give. Part of that good work is the ministry of the Personnel Committee. This committee monitors and advises the Board of Trustees on personnel best practices, similar to a human resource department. Would any members of the Personnel Committee present raise your hands here or online? There's two. Thank you. We are so grateful for your contributions to the life of this church and the needs of the world. Let us give with grateful hearts this morning. Please place your offering in the offering basket or give online by scanning the QR code on the back of your order of service. This would also be a great time to drop your visitor's form in the offering basket. For folks online, please click the link in the chat to give to First Universalist Church. Thank you for your generosity. This morning's offering will now be gratefully received.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I'm gonna let it shine for all to see. I'm gonna let it shine, shine for all to see. I'm gonna let it shine, shine for all to see. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, oh, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, 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 shine. Take this little light and let it shine, shine, shine.
I would like to invite forward anyone who'd like to sit on our story blanket for our story today. Whether you're frogging your way up or leapfrogging your way up. So I know we have some very eager chalice lighters here. We've all enjoyed lighting the chalice upstairs, and then we have one here. So in most Unitarian Universalist services or gathering, there is a flaming chalice. You haven't seen it. We also have it pictured there. Sometimes you'll notice people with flaming chalice jewelry on it. And so this is the symbol of our faith as Unitarian Universalists. But even though there have been Unitarian and Universalists for ages, for a long time, at least 200 years, 2,000-ish years, this symbol for us is pretty new, like less than 100 years. Have you ever heard the story of how we got this symbol before? Excellent. I love to tell it. So during the beginnings of what became World War II, they noticed that both Unitarians and Jews and people who were queer were being imprisoned or maybe killed in the areas that the Nazis were going into. And there were some ministers who wanted to get involved, particularly Reverend Charles Joy. I always remember it because, oh, Joy, yay, oh, Joy, who wanted to try and get people out and save them. And he recruited some friends of his, the Waitstills, who were married at that time, to come over and help. And so they were trying to get people out of the country, specifically Czechoslovakia at that time. And not all the people spoke the same language. So you're trying to get out, and you're trying to help people get out, and you're trying to also avoid people who might try to imprison you or kidnap you. And so they needed something, even if they didn't speak the same language. What could make this organization more official? What could be a symbol that would speak even when people couldn't? And so Reverend Joy asked a man who was in his office who had escaped from France, Hans Deutsch, who's a famous cartoonist at that time, but also a great artist in general, to make us a symbol. And he chose the chalice, which for hundreds of years in different traditions meant like the cup of community and helping and sustenance, or even the communion cup, and the flame of hope and justice and perseverance. And so he put these two together, having the chalice and the flame, and that became the symbol that the Unitarian Service Committee was known for in its actions trying to help people who were persecuted get out of those countries affected by Nazi Germany. And then, over time, the story got passed along, and people were like, that's great. This is perfect. We needed a symbol, something unifying for all of us as Unitarian Universalists. And so that's why we often have it, or have our jewelry for it. So if you're like, what do we do? What do we do as Unitarian Universalists? And what do we do up in children's worship? No matter what, we light our chalice. And we learn about fire safety. Thank you so much for coming up for our story today and for listening and taking it in. We are going to sing our doxology while I invite our kiddos and staff to go up for children's worship.
I invite you now all to join into our reverent time of sharing the joys and the sorrows of this gathered community. If you would like to, you can place a hand over your heart to be able to listen from a more heart-centered place. And as Bill places stones into a bowl, I will read aloud the joys and the sorrows of our folks gathered this morning. We share in celebration with Tom the joy at the Queer Veterans Exhibition that opens Friday evening at 6 p.m. at the Village Gate Square. It will be there for the month of June, and we're all encouraged to visit it. Someone you may know may be exhibited there. We share in gratitude with Elizabeth a special thanks to everyone who participated in the successful hot breakfast, and especially to our church neighbor Farmhouse Table Food for their donation. We share with Kitty the joy of being a member of this wonderful church. We share a joy with Shirley, who last Saturday attended the wedding of octogenarians, her brother, a widower, and his high school sweetheart in the church where they grew up near Pittsburgh. And we share one final joy at a different wedding which took place here in our sanctuary yesterday, and particular joy as the brides lifted each other's veils to look into each other's faces. Today, we also share in the community ritual to honor the many joys and sorrows we bring to this space, whether we have read them aloud or keep them in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. In a moment, all those here in person are invited to come forward and drop stones into the bowls at the front. If you need to remain seated, you can always raise your hand and someone will come to you with a bowl and some stones to drop in. And if you're joining us online, please drop a heart emoji into the meeting chat rather than a stone. Let us join in this collective ritual of honoring the joys and sorrows of us all now. Now the circle of our care is drawn larger. May it increase forevermore. I invite you now into a moment of prayer and centering, followed by some shared silence. So let us start by taking a deep breath as we remind ourselves that by shared silence, we mean the absence of grown-ups talking to one another so that we can listen more closely to the sounds of life, to the bustle of the city outside the doors, to the children's footsteps overhead, to the movement of the neighbor in the seat beside us, to the voice within our own hearts. The monarchs fly home to Mexico every autumn. Over a 3,000-mile stretch of this wide earth, they fly in staggered generations. The great-great-grandchildren of lepidopteran pilgrims who set out from Ontario arrive in the Sierra Madres, a home they know only in the shadows of ancestral memory. It is said great gauzy swarms of wayfaring butterflies in flight over Lake Superior swerve to the east. Every year they reroute, avoiding the path of collision with an ancient mountain that has not existed for eons. Spirit of life, may we trust so deeply the wisdom of ancestors laid down in our own veins and sinew. May we hold in our hearts the understanding we may never make it home and set out toward it anyway. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. This morning's hymn of contemplation is number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Organizers trying to build solidarity, which is our theme of May and June, often quote the statistic from political scientist Jonathan Pinckney that no authoritarian regime can withstand a resistance of 3.5% of its population mobilized against it for 10 years. And I think it's easy to hear that and feel both called into actions of solidarity and preemptively tired. It is easy to feel a sort of despair about the length of that struggle, about the weaving together of generations it will take, knowing not all of us will be here in 10 years. And I think if it's going to be an epically long struggle, then what do we need to see it through? An epic story, probably. Do you all know the story of the Ramayana? I'm so happy to get to tell it to you. Some of it. It's an epic Hindu poem from 2,000 to 7,000 years ago. No one's sure quite how old it is. The version that's commonly known today is one of the longest epics in world history, at 24,000 verses long. When I was living in India, there was a popular TV adaptation of the story airing that ran for 48-hour-long episodes. And if you're starting to feel preemptively tired right now, Let me assure you, we are not going to cover the tale in its entirety today. It's the end that I think really matters at this moment. But like with all stories, you have to know a little bit about the beginning and the middle for the end to make any sense. So the story begins like this. Rama was born the eldest prince of Ayodhya, a city in northern India, almost as far north as Nepal. Sort of like Jesus, Rama is a god in human form. In this case, the god is Vishnu, who's a sustainer deity, a preserver of life. Rama, consequently, is a model of compassion and care. Rama grew up and married the princess Sita, an incarnation of the goddess Lakshmi. And it's not a typical aristocratic partnership. They are in love. They are not typical aristocrats. They're gods who are cosmically bound and find one another in every incarnation across the ages. It is, as my 6-year-old would say, very romance. Shortly after their marriage, Rama's stepmother insisted to his father that her son, one of Rama's brothers, be installed as king instead of him. Their father agreed, and he banished Rama to the forest outside of the kingdom. His other brother, Lakshmana, followed him as he left Ayodhya with a broken heart. Sita tried to follow too, and Rama begged her to stay, to remain in the comforts of the city rather than live in the unprotected wild with him. And then she says to him one of the most romantic lines in literature, "The forest will be home for me with you there, and Ayodhya would be hell for me without you." And so they went together into exile. We, too, are living at a time that feels like being cast out of what we had known sometimes, what we had expected to know. And I don't know about you, but I've been thinking a lot about Paul Tillich. I do know about you. I know you're not thinking about Paul Tillich. Now you might be thinking, who the hell is Paul Tillich? But you probably hadn't been until now. I will tell you who the hell Paul Tillich was. He was a German Christian theologian in the early 20th century, thinking and writing during a time when the global economy had collapsed, just after a massive war and a worldwide pandemic, in a nation with a surging interest in fascist ideology. Sounding familiar? You see why I'm thinking about Paul Tillich. And he was thinking about time. He was writing about time, about what the Christian scriptures meant when they went on and on about the fulfillment of time, and about how people of faith should react when it seems like time is building to a pivotal moment, a point of no return, a moment that holds the possibility of transformation before destruction becomes inevitable, a moment that he called the inbreaking of spirit. He called this concept kairos, a sense of time that is not chronological, not chronos, not linear, but a moment that holds all of eternity within it. The fulfillment of time as a moment that holds all possibility. Last Sunday on Pentecost, and since the first Pentecost, Christians have visualized spirit breaking through a moment of eternity as a flame within each of us. And I don't think we need to be Christian or even to read 20th century German theologians, although you're missing out if you're not, to see that this is a moment now for us to be part of the inbreaking of spirit, to hold the flame of hope in the now and in the eternal together at once. Before we do that, back to our heroes. Sita, Rama, and Rama's brother Lakshmana survived in the forest for 13 years, living in harmony and care with all the creatures there. But then there came a terrible day. The demon Ravana lured Rama into the forest with a vision of a golden deer, and then lured Lakshmana into the forest with the false sounds of Rama in distress, and then lured Sita outside by pretending to be a beggar in need. All of them led down this path by their own compassion. Ravana scooped Sita up and flew away with her. And when Rama discovered that Sita had been taken, he was heartbroken. He vowed to find her and save her no matter what. Rama was shocked, and in that moment, it must have felt like losing. It must have felt like this ages-long battle between destruction and sustenance, between injustice and compassion, was suddenly lost. That compassion had failed them, had led them into failure. Such relatable gods. We who were quite comfortable to begin with are shocked and appalled by the state of things. This feels new and terrifying, like a divergence from the path of progress we thought we were on. But those who have been in the struggle for a long time, for generations, know that neither progress nor time are linear at all. That this is bad, but not new, just newly affecting some of us, newly grabbing our attention. Some of us are feeling preemptively tired at the thought of a decade-long struggle, but many, many more of us have been in it for so much longer than that. Did we not believe Dr. King when he said, "I may not get there with you, but I can see it"? This is a moment to turn toward the leadership of Indigenous people who have been in the struggle since 1492, of Black Americans who have been in the struggle since 1619, of labor organizers, queer liberation activists, prison abolitionists, human rights defenders who have been in the struggle not just their whole lives, but for generations of lives. Some of you right here in our pews, politely not even rolling your eyes, when I said the prospect of a long struggle made me preemptively tired. The eternity held in this moment of time comes from our turning toward every ancestor who has kept the flame of hope alive in the long, spiraling journey toward liberation. And speaking of liberating, we still got to free Sita, right? So back in the forest, Rama noticed a gold ring on the ground that belonged to Sita, and soon another ring. And then he found a bangle and a jeweled nose ring. She had left a trail across the land for Rama to follow. For nearly a year, we're skipping a lot here, Rama traveled the whole South Asian subcontinent in search of her, and good people and animals recognized his goodness and offered him their help along the way. He offered them his help as well. Of course, he's a sustainer deity. He's there to preserve life. In particular, he became friends with the monkey hero Hanuman, who pledged his loyalty to Rama and helped him scour the countryside for Sita. They eventually figured out that Ravana had taken Sita to his island fortress of Lanka off the coast of the subcontinent. Rama and Hanuman do big heroic things, we're skipping so much, like leaping the distance from the tip of the subcontinent to the island, fighting the demon, burning down his citadel, and finally rescuing Sita and paddling a raft back to the mainland, safe and sound and free. As Reverend Michelle told us this morning, the flaming chalice has long been a symbol of our faith movement. It was adopted during World War II by a group of American Unitarians who came together to form the Unitarian Service Committee. Their mission was to find routes to safety for anyone whose lives were threatened by fascist regimes. Jewish and Romani people, LGBTQ and disabled people, political dissidents, and even Eastern European Unitarians. They set up offices in Boston and in Portugal and formed a network of messengers and agents who found safe routes to traffic people out of harm's way. This network used an image of a chalice with a flame as their symbol. They stamped it on messages. They hung it on windows to signify people and places of sanctuary, leading the way out of the dark. And Unitarians here in the United States started lighting chalices in their worship services as a way to show support for this effort, as a way of reminding themselves to be places of sanctuary to all people, to be houses of belonging and holders of hope. We still light a chalice every Sunday to remind ourselves of the very same things. That if we kindle the light of love in our own hearts, in our own communities, we can lead each other home to that very same love. We skipped a lot of the beginning and most of the middle of the Ramayana because, as I told you, it's the end that matters today. And you would think we heard the end already, right? Demon defeated, lovers reunited, godly purpose fulfilled. but as evidenced by me still yapping, the end is yet to come. We know the classic hero narrative is how it is supposed to work, right? The hero faces a crisis, the hero rises to the occasion, hero overcomes obstacles, including those in his own heart, the hero defeats evil, and goodness is restored. And we've done all that. So what else is there? Well, this is not just a hero narrative. It is a love story. Remember, very romance. Not just a love story between Rama and Sita, but more importantly, a love story between God and the world. And it is why I love this story. It reveals so much wisdom about how our stories, our real human stories, tend to go. Because Rama and Sita, having defeated the forces of evil and regained their freedom, find themselves at the last chapter standing on the southern shore of India with no idea how to get home. It took Rama a year to go from Ayodhya to Lanka. He's a long way from home. So Rama has won, and still somehow he is lost. How very human for a god. But the thing is, all along this epic journey, as we heard, Rama had met people and animals and other gods and demigods. He had made friends. He had built relationships. He had demonstrated compassion and loyalty and justice to those he met. And so there, at the end of the continent, at the end of things, they returned that love to him. They showed him the way home. The story ends with the people in the cities and villages that Rama had met all across India lighting diyas, little oil lamps, not unlike tiny chalices, and setting them on the road to show him the way home. They set their lamps along the roads all the way to Ayodhya, illuminating the right path. And when they arrived at home, Rama and Sita were welcomed with more lanterns and bonfires and crowned the true queen and king after 14 years of exile. The holiday of Diwali commemorates this act of love as people across India and now across the whole world light small lanterns and place them outside of their homes. The road home is long, friends, and it can sometimes feel like we might never make it there. That no matter how many battles have been won, somehow it still isn't the end of the story. That our victories are heavy with the sense that we are lost out here, so far from liberation, so far from what we know will feel like home. Can we trust that, like Rama, if we feel lost in the long night of tyranny, our beloveds will light the way, even those who are long gone? If our candle has gone out, can we have faith that others will hold the flame for us? That there are ancestors who have already lit flames along this path, beacons in the night showing the way back to where we all belong. This is why we come to church, why we do not go it alone. Inevitably, we will get tired. We will act outside of love. We will feel lost in dark and despair. We will feel banished to the wilderness of sorrow. But as a people who tend not to put much hope in heaven or in hell, I have faith in a love like Sita's. A love that says home is anywhere we are together and hell is everywhere we are not. It is a long journey to liberation, but we are not going it alone. It is a long journey and we might not make it all the way ourselves, but we can keep the fires burning. We can pass the flame of hope from one generation to the next and the next and the next, the spirit of eternity breaking into each moment of now. May it be so, and amen. And would you rise in your bodies and your spirits to sing our closing hymn together, number 12 in the gray hymnal or on the screens in front. Please remain standing if you already are as Bill extinguishes our chalice flame this morning. And let us read together the words printed on the screens. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls until we are together. As we close our service this morning, I invite you to place a hand over your heart. If you're joining us online, I ask you to turn your settings to gallery view and look upon the faces of those here with you today. And for those of us in the room, let us take a moment to look around at everyone gathered. Let us be lamps unto one another's feet. May our love be a light leading each other home. Everyone is invited to join us in coffee hour, not immediately after the service, but immediately after some questions and answers about the budget. If you're a visitor, please feel free to head straight to coffee hour. And if you're a member, please stay and hear about our upcoming budget for the next year. We hope to see you there.
I'm checking this. Is it on? Am I on? Hello, hello. There we are. Okay. So this song, in anticipation of this service, was requested, and I didn't know the song, so I learned the song. And even though my comfort zone is definitely playing the piano and singing, I thought, this is a folk song, it needs guitar. So with my preemptive exhaustion and preemptive apologies to the real guitar players out there, we'll do it. There's also, in keeping with the folk tradition, a little bit of echo, so that you're going to do. You probably didn't know you were going to have to do that, but this is called Keep the Little Flame Alive, Carsey Blanton. A cotton field, a silver mine, Johannesburg to Palestine, broken treaties, streams deprived, we kept the little flame alive. Bobby Seale to Bobby Sands, a picket held in frozen hands, prison cells and freedom rides to keep the little flame alive. 100 years, 100 years, 100 more. We throw our weight against the door. And even if we don't survive, we keep that little flame alive. Ford the river, cross the sea, a slave, a rat, a refugee. Strap the child to your side to keep the little flame alive. Oh, Guerrero, Connolly, we hid them in the scullery. A secret whispered by the wives kept that little flame alive. 100 years, 100 more. We throw our weight against the door. And even if we don't survive, we keep that little flame alive. Faye, Dolores, Bernadine, table grapes and gasoline, homemade rifles, kitchen knives that kept that little flame alive. Warsaw, Tulsa, Wounded Knee, they buried us, but we were seeds, singing from the grave we rise to keep that little flame alive. 100 years, 100 more. We throw our weight against the door. And even if we don't survive, we keep that little flame alive. Now me, instead of going right to the Joe Hill verse, I felt so inspired this morning that, of course, I had to write a verse about us. Our church has worked throughout the years to share the joys and dry the tears, helping neighbors all to thrive, to keep the little flame alive. Gilbert, Campbell, Morris, and Reed, they feed the hungry, meet the need. Now it's up to you and I to keep that little flame alive. 100 years, 100 more. We throw our weight against the door. And even if we don't survive, we keep that little flame alive. Remember when they shot Joe Hill? He spoke his last and final will. Good luck to all of you, don't cry, but keep that little flame alive.